Alright, welcome back to a new video. I haven't been to live streaming in this latest days because I didn't have enough privacy. There was never a time when I was alone at home, so I couldn't do it. Anyways, I think I should stop cussing in my videos and using bad words because they make me sound intelligent. Even though I'm one, I don't want to sound intelligent, even though I am. Anyways, the topic of this video is going to be about the existence of God. Now, this is a debatable topic. There is no definitive answer. You know what I'm saying? There is no definitive answer, and there is no empirical evidence like behind the existence of God. Most people who do only believe in it, you know what I'm saying? It's something within the unknown, like it's something that you can even verify. That you can get to and verify, like if you look at the definition of the unknown. It's something that you can even get to and verify, let alone assume that it's absolutely true. Anyway, so most people like believe in God not because it's something that they have evidence for, but rather it's because it's an idea that gives them comfort. The idea that there is a creator and ruler of the universe who's going to punish the unjust gives them comfort. The idea that this life is not the end, that there is an afterlife. And in this afterlife they go meet up with their loved ones again, you know what I'm saying? All of this gives them comfort and it gives them a reason to believe in the existence of God. And to believe in the existence of the hereafter and all of that. Anyways. So among the question raised by theists and deists is, where did the universe come from? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, the universe can't come from. They always like assert this claim that the universe can't come from nothing. Then there must be a creator. But it just doesn't follow. Like that's a non sequitur. Like, you can't just jump from the conclusion, oh, the universe is so vast. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? Look how it's designed. It's so vast. It's so spacious. There are stars. There are planets. You know what I'm saying? And jump to the conclusion, then God must be the creator. There must be a creator, which is God. You know what I'm saying? It's just not a non sequitur. Anyways, we'll get to this point. But anyways, first, they say that the universe can come from nothing. They always come with this assertion that the universe can come from nothing. First of all, we have no evidence to suggest that something can come from nothing. As a matter of fact, like if you look into, you know what I'm saying, into quantum mechanics, in certain conditions something can actually come from nothing. I mean, in certain conditions it's theoretically possible. You know what I'm saying? It's not impossible. We never had nothing to experience with to begin with. So that's like a baseless claim. It needs evidence. Anyways, so this is one thing they say. Another thing is, since the universe had a beginning, then he must have a cause. But the problem with this, alright, so this is the Kalam cosmology argument. This goes as follows. Everything that begins to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist, therefore the universe must have a cause. But there is a problem, but this is like an unsound argument, because there's a problem with the first premise. Everything that begins to exist has a cause. This needs an evidence. This needs actual evidence. As I said, in certain conditions something can come from nothing. Not everything has a cause. Everything that began to exist has a cause. This needs evidence, you know what I'm saying? We can say that everything that began to exist seems to have an explanation, but not necessarily a cause. For example, something exists because nothing is abstract. You know what I'm saying? Therefore it cannot exist. Something in this case exists, but it doesn't have a cause. Anyways, even if we assume that the universe has a cause, this cause can be the creator. It doesn't have to be the creator, you know what I'm saying? Necessarily. Okay, so they're gonna go with the infinite regress, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're gonna talk about infinite regress. You can't have an infinite number of causes, because an infinite number of causes before the creation of the universe, before the universe, before the present moment. Let's go before the present moment. Infinite causes before the present moment implies infinite moments before the present moment. If we have infinite moments before the present moment, we would never get to the present moment. Therefore, there has to be a beginning that is uncaused. You know what I'm saying? There has to be a beginning that is uncaused. That is the first cause of everything. Like, this is the general argument. First of all, like, infinite regress can be possible, may be possible in an infinite universe. This is what I think. I think it could be possible in an infinite universe. And even if we assume there is a necessary existence, a being that must exist that cannot fail to exist, in which, you know, say that is the cause of the universe. It doesn't have to be a creator. It can just be like another eternal universe. You know what I'm saying? Another eternal universe that cannot fail to exist. You know what I'm saying? That is independent and self-sufficient. Or a multiverse, rather. There is no evidence to suggest that this can't be the case. So this is the Kalam cosmology. The Kalam cosmology, you know what I'm saying? Kalam cosmology arguments. Let's go to another argument. Of course, there are always objections to this argument, you know what I'm saying? But which leads to a certain kind of uncertainty. Because for an argument to be undeniable, in my opinion, it must only like have only one explanation possible. Let's get to another argument. There is this complexity argument, or the watchmaker argument, that says the watch is complex, it has a creator, which is humans, you know what I'm saying? Humans are also complex, therefore they must have a creator. If we go on the same basis, then the creator is also a complex being. So he must also have a creator. But according to them, you know what I'm saying? We cannot have a creator. Because of the infinite regress thing, you know what I'm saying? The argument of the infinite regress. But there is a problem. When you assert that complexity can't come from a creator, that's actually an argument from ignorance. Just because there is no evidence to suggest that the complexity can't come from a creator doesn't mean it, you know what I'm saying, it can't be true. Also, if you really look, you know what I'm saying, on nature, you know what I'm saying, there are certain mutations in animals. There are animals who are mutated, who look different. They are complex in a sense. But their complexity is a result of evolution by natural selection, or not by a creator. You know what I'm saying? So this is what I say. It does not necessarily apply that there is a creator. Complexity. Anyway, let's get to another argument. There is the dependency argument. The dependency argument goes as follows. Everything in the universe is dependent. You can't depend like infinitely. This thing depends on this thing. It has to be a point, you know what I'm saying? Where all the dependent things depend on something that is independent, which is what they call God. But it doesn't have to be God. First of all, everything in the universe dependent doesn't mean that the universe itself is dependent. This argument makes a composition fallacy. Where it assumes that if a part of something is dependent, then that thing must be dependent. But not necessarily. For example, every block in this wall is small. Therefore, this wall is small. It's not correct. It's not necessarily true. Anyways, even if we assume that there is a necessary existence upon the universe is dependent. It doesn't have to be a creator, a being, a supernatural being. It can just be another universe or a multiverse. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, let's depend this argument, which I think is one of the strongest arguments for God's existence. Let's go to another argument. Let me think. There is the fine-tuning argument. The fine-tuning argument is about the constant of the universe. The way the universe is designed. You know what I'm saying? Like, for example, like if the sun and the earth were a bit closer, there would be no life on earth. You know what I'm saying? It's called the physical, you know what I'm saying, the universal constants. It's like, how do you explain life on earth? And they also say that, like, if the constants were different, then the universe wouldn't form. But the problem with this is, how do you know if the constants were a certain, like, first of all, you can't measure the constants precisely, and second, how do you know if the constants were you know, saying were different in a certain way that the universe wouldn't form? How do you know that? Did you experiment with that? You know what I'm saying? And the problem with this argument is that it could be multiverses, and our universe like happens to support life. But other multiverses don't happen to support life. But the problem is that does not explain why there is life on our universe. I mean, who knows if there are alien forms somewhere in this universe? There happens to be other life forms. We are not alone. Like, that would prove that we are not special. And we can explain the existence of life on our earth because there are the conditions necessary for life to form. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there are the conditions necessary for life to form. And the problem with this argument is that it assumes that the physical constants are the same throughout all the universe. Like, the universe is so vast. We say that the gravity functions, like the way gravity functions here can function, you know what I'm saying, in the same way in a different part of the universe. It functions the same way in a different part of the universe. Who said that? We don't know. When they also have this argument like that physical laws cannot create themselves. So they must have a creator. I don't know about that one, man. I gotta research into that. Anyway, so back to the argument. There is another major problem with this fine-tuning argument. That's about the design, intelligent design and stuff. I don't see like from a human perspective, from a human understanding perspective, I don't only see intelligent design. Yeah, there is intelligent design, yeah. Like the distance between the sun and the earth, you know what I'm saying? Like the way the universe, you know what I'm saying? Is so ordered, you know what I'm saying? But there are critiques about this, like the way the universe, like, is way too precise, suggesting a more naturalistic explanation than a supernatural explanation. Yeah, and there is this major problem with this argument is that if you really believe that God is behind the creation, you know what I'm saying? The creation of life. Then why does he need certain conditions to create life? If he is omnipotent, then he should create life regardless of the conditions. That makes God either omnipotent, which is not possible in my opinion, because God should not be limited. There is nothing that can impose limitation on him outside of him. So he should by default not be limited. Which neglects that there is God behind this, the idea that there is God behind this creation of life. Anyways, those are the counter arguments. If there was a God, then he should be create life no matter what the conditions are, because if you say that he needs certain conditions, then you are limiting him. And we as know like God cannot be limited. Therefore, there must be another explanation, not a supernatural explanation. a God explanation. There is also this thing called modal collapse that says if God's act of creation is necessary, then the creation must also exist of absolute necessity, which negates the divine free will. Now you might argue God's act of creation is not necessary, but when you really look at it from my point of view, something must exist. Nothing cannot exist. Nothing is abstract. It cannot exist. Therefore, God's act of creation is necessary, which implies that creation exists of absolute necessity. I mean, he's forced to create, which negates his free will. So you can't say that there was if I encountered some arguments that say like the fact that the events are unfolding now, you know what I'm saying, suggests that there is a will behind the creation. Well, this negates the idea of will, in my opinion, because God's act of creation is necessary. Nothing cannot exist. So there is no will in this sense. He is forced to create. Anyway, let's get to another argument. This is going to be the final argument, which is the moral argument.